Today, I am pleased to introduce someone I think all of you know already. If you don't, you need to make a point of getting to know her. Ms. Laura Clippard, who has been here now, how many years? 11 years here in the Honors College. She is an indispensable member of our team at the Honors College. Ms. Clippard is in charge of the Undergraduate Fellowships Office, and she's also one of our advisors in honors, works with the Buchanan Fellows. She has contributed significantly to the success of the college, and I think those of you who have expressed an interest in pursuing a fellowship or scholarship, some of you who have been fortunate enough to go through that process and win a fellowship or scholarship, I think you would agree with me that you will not find a more dedicated person, someone who is really devoted to helping students connect their dreams and aspirations with opportunity. And of course, we all try to contribute to that effort here in the Honors College, and we help as much as we can. But we're mainly helping Laura Clippard because she's the one who heads up the effort, and we are very grateful to her each and every year for working with so many students, and I just want to give her a round of applause. So today, she has accepted my invitation to come and speak about fellowships and scholarships. She has a very good presentation to give you and will probably answer your questions in the course of her presentation, but she certainly invites questions from all of you. So please, any question that you have about fellowships and scholarships, please do ask her. So, Laura.
My name is Laura Clippard, and I am thrilled to see so many familiar faces in the room. I'm going to talk about fellowships. You know, when you talk about fellowships, it's hard not to say, oh, here's one, and just give information. But really, I want to talk about the process of fellowship. So I recently applied and got a fellowship. I guess it's about 4 years ago, I applied for a Fulbright, a 2-week Fulbright in South Korea. And guess what? I didn't get it. Okay. I got up until the final selection process, and I was rejected. Okay. And then I applied this year for a Fulbright to Japan, and I did receive that. But for me, it was a learning process. When I opened up the application, I looked at it and I said, how the heck do I write this personal statement? You know, but I've been reading these things for 11 years, but it can be tough. And so I think part of the fellowship process is to open yourself up to feedback, to open yourself up to maybe not getting it, but trying for it anyway. So I like to just point out you don't always get everything in life, but it's about growth and it's about learning from the process. If you have won a fellowship, can you raise your hand? So Gareth's not going to raise his hand, but he did. I looked at him. So, for example, when Gareth came into my office, we sat down and we talked about fellowships. Well, we came up with some that we thought were great, and then guess what? They weren't, okay? But we moved on, and he ended up winning the Harold Love Community Scholarship Award, which is a state award. So I encourage you to visit with me. Sometimes when you come in, I might say, oh, this is great, you should do this. But sometimes I just learn about you, and I look out for opportunities. Before I jump into the meat of my presentation, I have Anna, okay? And you are an intimidating group, so be kind, all right? She is a National Scholarship winner, and she is going to talk about her experiences for a minute.
Okay, so hi, my name is Anna, and I'm going to talk to you about my study abroad experience and the reason why I applied to study abroad and the Gilman Scholarship that allowed me to make this trip possible. So a little background about why I chose to study abroad is because I have always had a passion to learn about other cultures. And when I was in high school, I took French classes because I just always wanted to learn a different language. But currently right now, my major is not in languages. My major is in nutrition with a concentration in dietetics. And because of my interest, I tried to look for options that allowed me to study abroad with nutrition programs, but I couldn't find any. So I thought it would be a great idea to study French in France and experience their culture firsthand. And this is why I chose the Summer in Normandy program, which is in like northern France. And in this program, you're allowed to stay with a local French family for about a month, and you get to experience their day-to-day life with them. And I will say that during my stay, I did experience some difficulties, especially with the language barriers, but I feel like these challenges were important to me because it taught me to be more empathetic, and it pushed me to better my communication skills. And this is valuable to me because someday in the future, I hope to work with international nutrition programs, which is not very common right now, but that is one of my goals. So now I want to talk a little bit about the Gilman. And this scholarship requires you to write 2 essays. The first essay is the purpose essay, where you are able to tell your story and the reason that you want to study abroad. The second essay is where you tell them how you want to promote their scholarship and inform other students about this great opportunity. So I have one suggestion, and it is to start your application process and give yourself enough time to work on it, because you have to do, it's very intense sometimes. But you won't be alone, because you have Mrs. Clippard, who is going to work with you step by step in improving and polishing the outcome. So my favorite quote from the Gilman is that the Gilman International Scholarship enables students of limited financial means to study or intern abroad, thereby gaining skills critical to our national security and economic prosperity. So that is all I have about the Gilman, and if you have any more questions, I'm glad to answer them when our session is over. Thank you.
So looking at study abroad, there's a lot of good options. We have a lot of different types of fellowships. We have fellowships connected to science, political action, study abroad. These are some of our winners. And again, you know, Brooke was a semifinalist for the Fulbright, but she didn't end up getting it. But she talked about how it helped her with all her other goals in graduate school. So we encourage people to check out and see what's available. So how do you do that, okay? In this day and age, it doesn't matter how you do it, but you need to keep track of your leadership experiences. You can do that through reflective learning. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on Post-it notes and a resume. But when you decide to apply to graduate school, to a job, to a fellowship, and they say, tell us about your leadership experiences, if you haven't thought about what you've done and how you've done it deliberately, you're going to sit down and go, well, I don't know. What did I do my freshman year? Didn't I volunteer somewhere? I don't remember. So you want to keep track, and you want to keep track of your leadership roles. So you don't want to just say, worked at the blood drive, okay? You want to keep track of, oh, I recruited 5 of my friends to work at the blood drive. You want to give a description of your role. Maybe you came up with a social media idea that resulted in 50% more people coming to the blood drive. So you want to keep track of all that. And you want to ask people about how to get involved in your major. Ask your fellow students, ask your advisors, ask your faculty members, what can I do to learn and develop my professional skills? So more does not equal better. So occasionally I will come across a resume where a student is a member of 10 honor societies, and it's just a list, okay? What you really want on a resume or CV is you want a description. How have you made a difference? And this could be an English major, this can be a science major, so you want to pursue things passionately. Letters of recommendation, and Dr. Phillips always knows I ask him this question, okay? So Dr. Phillips, what is the shortest period of time someone asks you to do a letter of recommendation?
24 hours.
24 hours. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Okay. Ideally, you want to give people at least a month. If you want a not generic letter of recommendation, give them a month, okay? Give them a CV list. It doesn't have to be perfect, but tell them about your background. And then tell them what you're applying for. If you're applying for an opportunity that stresses teamwork, then make sure that that's included in your letter of recommendation and let the faculty member know that. Personal statement. This is the bane of everybody's existence, okay? How many of you are STEM majors or in the STEM field? Oh, you guys seem to not like it the least, okay? So, a personal statement is essentially an essay where you write about yourself. And you write about yourself in connection to an opportunity. Why you want to get into a graduate school, why you want to apply for the Fulbright, why you should get the Gilman, okay? And you talk about the personal, the academic, the professional experiences that you had that make you want to apply. And it really should reflect deeply. So one question or one statement that I read a lot is anybody interested in being a doctor? Raise your hand. So I know there's a couple of you. So when you are writing an essay to get into medical school, okay, assume everybody is getting into medicine to help people, okay? So you want to reflect deeper. You want to go deeper. You want to give your experiences. You want to give your stories. You want to give what you know and what you care about. Also, the process of applying, you can get feedback. You know, I had a student who applied for the Goldwater. She didn't get it. But I said, I'm sorry you didn't get it. She said, don't be sorry. I got an REU, which I'll explain in a minute, to MIT. I used the same essays and turned those around so it can help develop your professional skills. So I'm going to start talking about the fellowships a little bit now. So some of the fellowships, most of them are national, but there is one thing I always like to talk about, and that is Eureka, okay? So Eureka is run through the Undergraduate Research Center, and essentially they will pay you $500 to $3,500 to do either a creative project or research. So I have had students get funded for science. We had a student who recorded Appalachian tunes on her fiddle, okay? Don't do this, okay? I'm gonna tell you a story and I'm gonna say don't do this. I had a writer who came in, he said, when's the Eureka deadline? I said, tomorrow. I said, I'm sorry, you can apply next cycle. He said, no problem. So he applied and he got $3,500 to write his novel, okay? Now you can apply, but don't wait till the day before. He's a very gifted writer, obviously. Eureka is available for every semester. So you can do it summer, you can do it fall, you can do it spring. One unique thing about summer, okay, is during the summer they have team projects available. So if you're a biology major or you're a fermentation major and you want to work with a group, you can find a professor and find a group of you and do a project together. So the person that runs the Eureka, and I guess it's good, maybe she'll watch this, she's the world's nicest person, okay? She is kind, she is helpful, she puts sample applications for Eureka. If you're stressing about it and you want a sample, she'll send you a sample. So she's really kind and she really wants students to do this. So if you're going to do a thesis, okay, if you're on that track, why not get paid, okay? So that would be my advice to you, is to check into Eureka. You can get it as a freshman, you can get it as a sophomore, you can get it as a senior, you can get a big one, a small one. It's just so flexible. And according to what they tell me, okay, according to what they tell me, they have about a 30 to 40% acceptance rate, okay? So now if I keep promoting it, maybe that will go down, I don't know. But right now, about a third of all people get accepted to a fourth. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the fellowships. Some of them are international. So the Critical Language Scholarship is due tomorrow, okay? So what is it? It allows you to study languages overseas. Some of the languages require prereqs. So if you wanted to go study through the State Department Japanese, by the time you go this summer, you have to have had Japanese 2020. Some don't have prereqs at all. The one thing they do all have in common is you have to tie the language to your professional career. So you want to learn Hindi so you can work in Bollywood, okay? Or you want to learn Japanese so you can be a business person. But you have to tie them in. It's a very structured program. It's 7 to 10 weeks, intensive language study, you usually live with a host family, and cultural immersion with paid experiences. They love all majors, okay? They love STEM, they love English, they love history. So this is a good fit for all opportunities. The Gilman. So we talked a little bit about the Gilman Scholarship. So one thing is if you are interested in studying abroad or you're interested in going overseas, I would encourage you to actively go for it, okay? This is the one time in your life where you're able to get scholarships and funds to do these things. All right, so one example is that we still have the Italy program, okay? The Italy program is run through Dr. Phillips and April Goers, and they have a few slots open, okay? It is competitive to get in. Dr. Phillips, would you like to say anything about the Italy program?
Well, just between now and the end of the semester, if you are interested in applying for it, we are accepting applications. The program consists basically of 2 weeks in Italy, and our two home bases are Rome and Florence. And it's a humanities type course, reading classical and medieval literature and visiting a lot of wonderful places, historical sites, some of the best art galleries in the world, the best food, especially gelato. Right, Jada? She's been on the program. So if you have not decided upon a study abroad program or you're worried that there aren't any more slots available, we are accepting applications. So it's worth your consideration.
It is, and I might add that this is their third time going to Italy. So I would say, why is that important? It's important because they've kind of worked the kinks out, okay? They understand what's going to work and what's not going to work in terms of your comfort. So again, the Gilman is a great program. You do have to have a Pell Grant, and you have to go overseas at least 3 weeks. Now, the 3 weeks can be in more than one country. That's changed since you went. So you could be in France and England, but at least 3 weeks. There are a couple of essays. I also really love the Fulbright, okay? And I love the Fulbright for many reasons. One of the reasons I love the Fulbright is the purpose of Fulbright is mutual understanding. We send people to other countries, and other countries send people to us. So we exchange students, okay? And this exchange hopefully leads to better understanding. There's a lot of conflict. There's a lot of stride in this world. And so the Fulbright's mission is to make that better. So there's a couple of options for Fulbright. You can teach English as an assistant. You can do research. And then under the research area, there's Creative Fulbright. So this past cycle, we had an opera singer apply. I hope she gets it. Keep your fingers crossed. And there's a dance Fulbright, there's a painting Fulbright, there's a writing Fulbright. Fulbright has also added another category under research. It's very small, but I like to mention it, is they will pay for you to go to graduate school overseas. So that's a new category. Who should apply? People who are open-minded. One of the questions I usually get is, what are the requirements? Well, it depends, okay? So if you want to go to the UK, there's usually 800 people applying for 40 slots, or maybe even 30 slots, okay? If you want to go to Laos, which is a communist country, you probably have a 50 to 60% chance of getting it, okay? So typically, the more popular the country, the more people are applying. There are less requirements for Asian countries, and there are less requirements for Eastern European countries. But again, oh, that date is wrong, okay? So if you're interested in Fulbright, let me know. For Fulbright, sometimes you can bring people. So if you are married and or have children, Some countries allow you to bring people. Some pay for research and language support. And the Fulbright is typically 8 to 10 months. So you can apply as you are graduating, usually end of your junior year. You can apply as in graduate school. You can be out from MTSU and apply 2 years later. So the Fulbright has a lot of flexibility in terms of its timeline. There's also a lot of great options, okay? So if you are interested in living overseas after graduation, there's the TALK program, which is in Korea. JET, we had a record number of MTSU students get the JET last year. It was either 8 or 9. And so for JET, you teach English overseas. My daughter is a JET, so that's exciting. There's also a lot of other options for overseas. Additionally, there's fellowships for political action. Now the Truman, I always like to tell people that for the Truman Scholarship, I am looking for someone who is argumentative, okay? But it needs to be somebody who is argumentative in a good way, meaning that they have taken some steps to match their beliefs to make the world a better place. It's $30,000 for graduate school. They like someone who's been active in their community, on campus, and in government. At least 2 of those, and they're looking for someone who has helped change their environment for the better. They're looking for strong leadership skills. The interview is quite interesting. It is here in Nashville, but for the interview, you essentially go in and you talk about what your beliefs are and you kind of defend them. So it's a little bit of an adversarial interview. The Goldwater Scholarship is still open, and typically you apply as a sophomore or junior, but sophomore or junior is according to your graduation date, okay? Now, I know you guys come in like with 3 to 60 hours of credit, okay? So some of you are ahead, but it's about when your graduation date. But they're looking for someone who wants to get a PhD in research, and research wants to be their career. The REUs are opening shortly. We had REU workshops last week, if you were able to go. But essentially, the REUs are through the National Science Foundation, and they pay you $4,000 to $7,000. They pay your housing, they pay you a travel stipend, and sometimes they pay your food, and you work in a small research team, okay? There's no catch. It is competitive. So typically, I encourage students to apply to 4 to 6 REUs. I have had students go as high as 10, okay? But it's a wonderful opportunity. I mean, they keep you so busy you can't spend your stipend, okay? They have cultural excursions. They range from really exotic places like Paris, okay, to University of Alabama. So that they are just all over. There is also something called Amort, okay? And Amort is a little bit different. It's for someone that is interested in healthcare research in a less developed country, or what we would call a less developed country. They're looking for people who are minorities from socioeconomic disadvantaged backgrounds. Probably you have a Pell Grant, and individuals from rural areas. But essentially do healthcare research overseas in a group. To pay for graduate school, there's also some cool opportunities. In the science field, there's the NSF research one, which is up to $30,000 a year plus $12,000. So cross your fingers, we had somebody apply this year. They give out 2,000 awards in the country. But we also have an environmental scholarship, and you could receive that now, for someone who is active in environmental issues and cares about the environment. The Rhodes Scholarship is probably the one that has the biggest name. So everybody goes, oh, Bill Clinton was a Rhodes, okay? But the Rhodes is essentially you're at Oxford University. Some of the fellowships are direct. So if you want to apply for a National Science REU, you don't have to get permission from me. You just apply. Now, ideally, you let me read your materials, you let me give you feedback. But for something like the Rhodes, you have to be vetted and approved by MTSU or endorsed. And because you have to have 5 to 8 letters of recommendation. We prefer 8. And the letters have to be both at MTSU and outside of MTSU. So how do you get that? Well, maybe you do a study abroad, or maybe you do an internship. The Phi Kappa Phi is another fellowship. I don't remember the statistics, but is it 4 or 5 years we've had?
Yeah, I can say something about this and also update the information. So we've had Phi Kappa Phi fellowship winners for about 8 of the past 9 years. We've had a number of students who've won the Phi Kappa Phi study abroad fellowship, and the
Amount's wrong, I think.
yeah, the amount's wrong. So Phi Kappa Phi now awards scholarships and fellowships in excess of $1 million a year. And one of the notable changes is that for the Phi Kappa Phi fellowship, there are 50 awards of $8,500. There are 6 awards of $20,000, and there are 2 awards of $35,000. These are very significant fellowships, and they rival some of the best ones that you've talked about. Last year's recipient of a Phi Kappa Phi fellowship was Robert Owen, whom many of you know, who is now studying medicine at the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. And we have, if you look at the boards upstairs, you'll see the names of many students from here. And I point that out to say that this is not something that is it's an abstract concept. This is something that we have won almost every year for the past 10 years.
I also might add that if you have a 3.75 and you plan to study abroad, there is a Phi Kappa Phi study abroad scholarship, and last year there's I think 75 in the nation.
That's right.
And I think we had 4 people win, so it's pretty good.
So write that down. If you plan to do study abroad, if you want to come to Italy with us, Honors in Italy, that's a good place to use that fellowship.
Mm-hmm. I like to talk to students about value in the process. So in terms of intellectual development, personal development, the one thing that it is time consuming. So think about your life right now. You probably have to study. Some of you have to work. You may have a boyfriend or girlfriend. And then it is work because you put another fellowship on top of that, and it becomes time consuming. But I think it's worth the effort because life is a journey and not a destination. So I think I'd like to go back here, and you may have questions about the Gilman, and I'll let Anna talk if she wants to. But do you have questions about any of the fellowships, like the Fulbright or any of the international or other opportunities that I've talked about? No? Well, let me just kind of give you an overview of the process, okay? So if you are interested in learning about national fellowships, there's a couple of things that you can do. One thing that you can do is you can just look at our website. So if you go to the Honors College website, there's something called Undergraduate Fellowships Office. If you click on that link, it has a list of resources. It has a list of people who have won national fellowships. It also has a Fulbright video. It has an RAU video. It has a list of different opportunities. The other thing that you can do is that you can make an individual appointment with me to talk about your dreams and your goals, okay? Again, when you come in, I might say, yes, I know just the thing for you, or sometimes I don't, but I get enough information to keep my eyes open so that if an opportunity comes along that I can email you about it. The other thing is if you find a fellowship or opportunity, then we can proof your materials, we can read over your materials and your applications so that you can be a strong applicant for something. So is anybody in here a freshman or sophomore? Okay, so if you have a 375, you may have gotten an, or is that right? Yeah, I think that's right. Freshmen probably all got an email, but tomorrow I'm holding a UK Fulbright event. So this is not on the website, but I'll talk about it for a minute. So the UK Summer Institute Fulbright are open to people who are freshmen and sophomore. Not by hours, okay, but by time in college. So if this is your first year here or your second year here, and you think by the end of this semester you'll have a 375, there are 9 institutes, and essentially you go there and you stay 3 to 4 weeks and you learn about a particular topic. So I think Emily McTire went to Birmingham, I may be reversing them, and she learned about filmmaking, okay, and that was all paid for. And she's in media and entertainment. And Kelsey Keith learned about political action as related to the arts, okay? So they both went 2 years ago. The cycle is getting ready to open this November, but it closes like February 6th. So I didn't want to make announcements like when school comes back, January 25th, because that only gives you like 2 weeks to do the application. So I'm promoting it tomorrow. If you'd like to stop by and learn more, upstairs I'll have material set up and I would invite you to come. So I'm going to just pause for a minute and see if there's other questions, or Dr. Phillips may have other announcements for you as well. So does anybody have a question about the Fulbright or the Critical Language Scholarship? A question for Anna? So I have a question for Anna. Did you think you would win when you applied? Okay. So yeah, and I mean, I think she really worked hard, and she did all the right things. She started early. She did multiple drafts. She asked for feedback. She was open to constructive criticism, and she won. And I remember it was very exciting. So, other questions? Yes.
You said, I think it was for the Fulbright, how we could leave MTSU and then come back a few years later and apply for it.
Yes.
How would we apply for that?
Well, if you're it depends on if you've gone to graduate school or not, okay? If you left MTSU and went to graduate school and decided to apply for Fulbright, you would apply with your graduate school, okay? So you apply with your current institution. But if you hadn't gone to graduate school, you just would come and see me, okay? So we work with alumni for the Fulbright. Again, sometimes it's not the right time for people to apply, and they'll come back a year or two later and then make an application. And there are 160 countries for Fulbright and a lot of options. So sometimes the challenge is looking at the website and figuring out, like, which option should I apply for? And you can do that a number of different ways. If you speak languages, okay, you can look at countries that match your language skill. If you speak no language, that cuts out some countries, okay? So to go to France, you have to speak French. That's their rule. So if you don't, then you can't apply. Other questions? That's a great question. Dr. Phillips, is there anything you want to say? Any announcements about next week or thing? If you are interested in the honors Italy, I would encourage you to perhaps talk to Dr. Phillips about it, since we're probably going to end a few minutes early. It's a wonderful experience, and thank you all so much for being here.